Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Margarita Crystal Lotus, and this is Connections as a channel where we explore relationships, healing, and expression. And today's topic is, what is your relationship to money, and how does that influence your relationships? With me here, I have Mark Davenport and Heidi Hornlein. She is a coach for relationships, and they also have a retreat center. So, Heidi, can you add some details of why you are qualified, sort of, to talk about this topic today?
Yeah, thank you, Margarita, and welcome, and thank you that you have invited us both today, because Mark wanted to participate live and not only listen to us as he normally does. Why am I qualified to talk about this topic? Not so much because of my education, I would say, but because of my experience. And I think we will go into this topic afterwards. First, I would like to give some word to Mark, because he has never really appeared here in this show.
No, I guess I haven't, have I? Well, it's about time, yes.
Okay.
And I'm happy to be here with the two of you. And I'll be speaking, I think, more from a personal, excuse me, more from a personal point of view than from a professional point of view. Certainly have a lot of experience with money, or should I say with the lack of money. And it certainly has affected relationships, both close, intimate relationships, and well as my relationships with society in general, my relationships with other men who tend to measure one another by, their bank accounts. And so, yeah, there's plenty to talk about.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, and I actually very much appreciate that you as a partner to Heidi, so that you both can actually. Oh, thank you. Love the flowers in the background. Yeah, so it's very amazing that we have the other party with us here, so we can see. It's much more easier to get direct feedback for the audience, right? So I'm really glad you're here, Mark.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm glad there is at the moment Nazim, and I hope there are other people out there, and I would invite you all, we have the comment tracker on, to give us your comments and your take on the topic of money, and how was it, or is it still influencing your relationships?
Okay, so the first question is, what is the most difficult experience a person can have with the money? I'm thinking, what is the trigger that money does? What does money actually come to us as, and how does it trigger us? Is there a story that you have, Heidi or Mark, that can illustrate where it's going really, really to the extreme, or in a very bad situation?
Do you want to?
Sure.
Okay.
Immediately what came to mind when you described that scenario, I thought of shame, embarrassment, feeling tiny, feeling insignificant, feeling as if I were held in contempt by other people, by society, and never being able to be recognized for any inward qualities that I had out there, but always being measured by that yardstick of how much was I making, what was I contributing to this enterprise. There were times when I was contributing nicely, and of course, since I bought the same values as they did, I felt really good about myself. And I could have been just as judgmental of others who weren't making it at the time, as they were of me when I wasn't making it.
So what you are saying is mainly that the lack of money is a trigger. There might be some people out there where the abundance of money is a problem, but I think there are much less people. The normal experience, I would say, is the lack of money. And I also had this experience, and I think this is specific a little bit for Europe and for the time when I was born in the 50s. It was a short time after the Second World War, and there was still very much hardship, and people didn't have money. And my family, I was the third child. My father didn't have. He worked as a teacher. He had really little money. My mother had to sell ground, which she still possessed for, we say, an apple and an egg for almost nothing, just to keep the family alive. So, in my ingrained mindset is, I don't have enough money. It will never be enough, and you must always fear that you will, die for hunger. And this I took around with me for a very, very long time. And the first experience I had with my first husband, he was 10 years older. I was 19. He was 10 years older, and he had a good job, and he had a BMW, and I felt a little bit, it for sure was a reason also why I wanted to marry him. So in the traditional way, as a woman, I was looking for a man who had money, and this for sure influenced the relationship, because then came the moment when he said, you don't earn enough money, and although I tried, I was studying in university and did all sort of jobs, and I helped him in his office, and I did the housework and everything, and still there was this feeling, I'm not contributing, I'm poor, I don't earn money. And what I want to come to, what the trigger is, that we make an equation between money and the worth of a person. So that's a
very, very good point, because if I or a person attach to what they feel they are, and then judging themselves dependent on the dollar value, that's where the problem starts.
Yeah.
Because then you're listening to other people to know what you actually are worth. Exactly. And that's the beginning of the problem. So when we unhook that, if we can unhook that very thing, and see that I have value in myself, and then the money should be something about the agreements we make with each other. So how did you deal with that in your relationships, Heidi?
Let me bring up this comment from Nassim. He said, I have a great balance with my wife regarding money. We are both not obsessed with it. As long as we have enough to live what we considered a decent life, then it is perfect. Not a couplebreaker in our case. This is very nice. And I wonder, Nassim, has this always been like this? That it was no obsession with money? Or did you have in your life this moment where you felt that something doesn't go right with this money? Should be different. So while we are waiting for your comment, I bring it back in a minute. I would like to answer your question, which actually, would you like to answer it?
Well, it's easy to take a balanced look at these questions now that we're relatively mature and relatively healthy, and no longer necessarily caught in the games that we were playing in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, where we were in those productive years where we were buying the general values of the society in which we lived, and so we were victims of these attitudes. We didn't take it in an impersonal way. I can see now that much of what happened to me was happening to everybody around me, you know. But at the time, it was very personal, and it's such a relief to be able to get a little distance from that world, where I can look at it, and I think you can too, you know, in a quite different way. Not that we don't have money problems. We have enough at the moment, you know.
But who knows?
But who knows about? But we're not obsessed with that problem. We're doing fine right now.
Now, and that was the question for Nassim. I was asking because before quite a long time I was obsessed. First of the lack of money, and then when I began about 20 years ago to do my voice teaching, and I earned quite a bit of money. And then, you know, every evening I came home and see how much did I get, and I needed to have ever more and more and more and more, and that was still my self-worth was depending on that, you know. And the more I had, the more I was preoccupied that one day I couldn't have so much. And when I left some of the engagements I had there about, you know, teaching, and I had also a choir in Rome. When I left that, it took a long time to convince myself that I wouldn't die when I maybe have some less money and some fewer students to come to me, you know. It had a really big grip on me. And then living here and doing the work we have done with the Family and Power courses and the transformational coaching, which I did, all these trainings, then I really could shift this false belief. I will die because of hunger. I won't have enough money to live. And I mean, we never know if at the end of our lives we will have enough money, even if we have insurances, whatever. I mean, the history in Europe has shown, and also in America, that at a certain time of the history, also a big amount of money was worth nothing anymore. So you cannot really trust. So what I succeeded to do is to shift this false belief and be eradicated? No, you don't say eradicated. Rooted in the confidence that there will come money, you know, at the right time, and it will be enough. And this is so much different now in the relationship with you, no? Because we don't need to run and even more.
Doesn't mean we wouldn't like some more.
Oh yeah, this is a different question.
Different question.
Has nothing to do with that.
An answer from Nazim here. We can put it on the screen. Can you see that?
Yeah, I know that where we live in Milan, it is expensive, but we are doing fine. Love and health is more important. Let's bring it up here. Yeah, actually. It is. It is. But still we have to live, and we have to make sure that that we have enough to live.
Yeah, okay. And doesn't it boil down to these things that money is just the first red, you say, like the flashing light that we think it is, but really it's something underneath. And I think Nassim brought up a very good point, that it's not really the money. It goes down to the health or the love, which is, you know, following that hierarchy of Maslow, that if we don't have the basic need met, we have to go down to where we can take care of that. And somehow money is the all everything fixer, because you could then buy some treatment for your health, or you could even buy a relationship by, like you said, marrying somebody with the BMW, or have that idea, or then also, I mean, it's sort of the all and nothing fixer for all the problems, but it's not really true. Not really true.
It is not really true, because it's not money which makes you happy, you know. And I'm here having the other contribution of Nassim. I do agree that a bit of nervous feelings about the future that you bring up are a real concern, especially in today's world. I totally agree. On the other hand, I have a big trust that, first of all, that the money system or the economic system will change. I think it must change. And then that we find different ways of surviving. Before, in a certain level of development, there was the family, which was taking care for people who didn't have enough to survive. And we will find communal ways. I mean, being here on Google Plus and on the Hangouts is already a way of connecting. And when we need help, that we help each other. And money will become less important. There are already attempts to do an exchange business. How do you say that? Exchange market. That you don't pay money anymore, but
bartering.
I do, for instance, coaching sessions with a friend of mine, and she is an osteopath. She is working at the moment with Mark because he has knee problems. So it's not anymore the money the main thing for survival, because we will find somebody with whom we can exchange and who has what we don't have, and we have something what the others don't have. So.
Yeah, I got a comment from Melanie, and she says, I heard this the other day from another lady, Sherry Noorani, that money is seductive.
That's a nice description.
I do believe that. Of the little I have experienced in my life, and I finally, after a long time of being dependent on more or less dependent on my ex-husbands, then had my own money and earned money, you know. That was like, like a greed, like dependency on it. Isn't
it like you get a thrill inside, like it's an excitement, it's a game, rather than actually see that it is a game?
Yeah.
You know, like gamblers on the casino, there is a different mindset that comes in. And is that really helpful? I mean, which kind of satisfactions are really helping everybody? And what are patterns or behavior that is very totally selfish and exploitative? And so that's in the case of relationship. If you're excited to go and play on the roulette, by all means, but if it goes overboard so that you don't care for other relationships or only thinking of yourself, that doesn't give you in the end the total satisfaction that you could have. I mean, you two, Heidi and Mark, you've gone through the tribulations of different relationships to come to the terms with that when you can meet and be with another person, that gives the most happiness, that gives the most satisfaction when you can give to somebody else and share with somebody else about something. And then that sort of unhooks that sort of seductive force that money actually have.
Yes, at the very least, I'd rather the relationship be seductive rather than the money. But that's not exactly high up on Maslow's scale either.
I wanted to bring in something else. The money is used for so many other things than it actually is. Money is only a symbol for exchange, you know. So you don't have all the time exchange X towards with cars or something like that, you know. But you have this money in between. But when you begin to see it as a worth in itself, then it becomes also a power tool. I have lived in my relationships when I was dependent on my first husband, and then it was an Italian partner. When the relationship didn't work well, they immediately closed the money, the money source, you know. I went to the bank to get something, and the account was closed for me. So I was there without any money, and it is can be really a way to bribe other people, to force them in And I think it's not only personally. When we see in the world what is happening now, I think something like this is going on even between nations and other institutions. I don't know, maybe you can talk more on that, or somebody else.
Well, there's a
We
meta
have,
game.
we have another
Yes.
comment here from Kate.
I bring it up, or you bring it up, okay.
And she says that, yeah, like she proposes that any attachment really brings to more suffering, and I can't agree more with that.
Sure.
And so when we have suffering and then somebody's controlling us by the level of money they give us, then we're enslaved, really. We depending on that source. We're not independent of it. And this is also what the banks do. So the relationship with the government, with all the institutions, one might feel really helpless there. And that's also another relationship that we maybe can talk about another time. But when we see that when you're dependent on or attached to something like that, it has huge impact. Now, Mark, I wanted to ask you a question. Were you the breadwinner at some time, or had just a role to make money in previous or earlier relationship that you had?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was the worker daddy for about 10 years during my second marriage, and brought home more than she ever did. Much of the time she brought in nothing, but of course she had children to take care of. She had other things to do and occupy her time, so it wasn't as though she didn't contribute. I don't mean that. But in that case, I often felt that what I brought into the household was just disappearing down this sinkhole of what? Endless stuff. Much of it was necessary, but some of it certainly was not necessary. And so I began to resent her, what I considered her lack, her irresponsibility in terms of managing the household budget. She did the managing or the mismanaging. I brought home the money. And that was not a balanced relationship either. That's not a good way to do it.
So in our coaching, we always say, how is that possible? I mean, it's not only the other person who is dictating the rules, it's you who are accepting the rules.
Sure.
So you obviously accepted that, and then you were resentful behind. And this didn't really serve the relationship.
No.
It made it even worse, I guess, and I mean, you are divorced.
Yeah, that was definitely a factor in that, certainly. Yes, I was irresponsible, too. I felt like I was doing my part, so why isn't she doing hers? And, why should we have to even talk about this,
I'd like to focus on that a little bit. Because I've been in the way also the money maker in a relationship, and that we have sometimes seen it's from the other person who doesn't have money, who stay at home with the children or whatever. But let's see, how is it like for the person who actually makes the money and work a lot of hours to actually bring in the money? What's the point of view of that? Isn't it, what do you have to say about that?
Well, you feel like you're on a treadmill and that you can't stop. Fortunately, at that period of my life, I was doing something I was fairly interested in, and so that wasn't a big problem. But I knew that I had to, just get up and go to work every morning, all day, and come back in the evening. And so in many ways, I didn't really participate in my children's lives, She took care of all of that, You know, she had the relationship with the children. I was sort of a weekend adjunct in their lives. So that's one thing that I really feel badly about, not being there for all the things that happen as children grow up. You know, that occurs to me off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I want to
it's
see this.
very, very, very hard to. Okay, let's see. I see that those who have less money try to live reasonably, but those who are rich beyond limitation are so hungry for even more. Oh yes, I agree with you there, Melanie.
But I have to say, this seduction is also for when you have not so much, you know, when you begin to have some money, that this is the same mechanism. I think it is sort of an impersonal thing. It has nothing to do with yourself, but it's just human, let's say human condition, that we want to have more, more, more. And unless we can come out of it, develop more, we are like that.
Yeah, I think that's
I'd
important.
like to mention a comment from Mike here. He says many people don't act because of fear concerning money rather than just doing what they enjoy doing. I think that's a very good point. There is definitely fear there, and so to solve that, in my own case, I've worked with that, and to solve that, I have to actually look at that fear right in the eye and see, okay, what is worth doing? What do I like to do? What makes me happy? And then focus on that rather than letting a lack of money or too much money or not enough money or whatever the story is around money. It's all around us with all these consumerisms and advertising and all of these stuff, right? But to really get down to see what is the thing that does make us happy. And I think, Heidi, you might have some answers how you deal with that with your client.
Yeah, I just finished to read the comment from Mike. It's very, very, very long, but it's exactly what it is. People don't act because of fear. And you know, I didn't act a long time. When I knew that my voice teaching work, I was not satisfied anymore. I still stayed there, you know, because I was fearful I wouldn't get enough money. And now, what I'm doing now, for instance, these hangouts and engaging on Google+, and it's really enthusiasming me. I don't know the word. Anyway.
It's enthusing you.
Okay, thank you. And I have overcome the barrier of learning new things on the computer. You know, before I didn't want to have to do with computers anything. And now I like to do it. And, you know, I don't earn any money at the moment. Because not even coaching, I mean, some coaching sessions, but I wouldn't survive with that. But I have this strong conviction when I have learned that, and when I really do what I want to do, and what I want to do is bring out, help people to grow into higher levels of consciousness, let's say, or we are both integrally practitioners, so we are in this level of evolution, word, speech. So I really want to help people to become more integrated. And what I have learned in my life, all the things I have learned, and there are really a lot of things, they are all contributing to that. So I know in the deep down, in the wisdom part, that this is the time I have to learn. I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. And then will be a time where the money will come to me, and I will survive.
Okay, I so agree with you, Heidi, and that's, I mean, I'm doing the same, basically the same, and I'm a healing practitioner and working in sort of a woo-woo area for some people, but basically it's like if you connected your heart, if I connect with my heart, then I change the inner environment inside. It's a state of mind where, let's say, money or other things just comes. and I see the opportunities, and I've seen a lot of different opportunities, and sometimes I saw them too late, I couldn't grab them, and sometimes I'm seeing them coming in and I just allow it to come in. So that's I think the new way to integrate your life experience, our life experiences here on the planet. The old paradigm of the traditional money system is a old ruined building. I think it's breaking down, and so hangouts like we doing and many other people are doing work towards this, not necessarily for money. I mean, this is a free service we're doing every week. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is how the new societies is going to be, which is open for anyone, even those who have lots of money or no money or whatever, regardless of the money.
Yeah.
As long as if I do really apply myself in my life and do as best as I can, I think that's a very good starter point for anything. And then I can also have good relationships.
Yeah, I wanted to share just what you said, that the money comes when it's the right time. About 3 weeks ago, as we talked about in other hangouts, we were both in the Integral Conference in Budapest, and I had a workshop about my consciousness of voice and body and psyche. And then I talked with a woman and I said, you have to speak so in front of many people, and your voice I really would like to work with your voice. And I never thought she would take it seriously. And she comes next week for a week, and we will have a voice whip session, and she will come out with a voice which can be heard, when she is using it instead of after a while. So I didn't intend really, I say it so often to people, your voice is, you could speak better and you will feel different and you can be heard when you use it in a different way. And normally people say, no. And this was a surprise. So you never know which corner money comes around.
Yeah. And we have a comment here from Irene Brody. And she's a step-parent, and she sings, I think in the early years I worked and worked and worked as the way of making meaningful contribution, because my mom and dad were already fulfilling other roles for boys. Also have felt very self-reliant with the regard of my own, I can't see the other part of that, and my own income, she says, yeah. And I'm really glad how many people are commenting. And also Kate says, abundance consciousness, she says that it is the abundance consciousness that we're talking about here. Yeah, it's really the opening ourselves, that if we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there were 7 levels, but maybe there are more levels than that. Maybe there are 50 levels. And we're just the first stepping stone to actually empower ourselves to that other higher level where, we can have communities and help each other instead of sending bombs to our neighbors. Like this is the basic thing, right? I think we're touching some very deep problems there. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
It costs a lot less than sending bombs. Yes. And then you have to rebuild the country afterwards.
Yeah. So I think, Margarita, we are more or less at the time mark.
Yeah.
I think the main thing what we were talking about, and that's what Kate says, we are talking about the shift from lack consciousness into abundance consciousness, and not be stopped by the fear. The fear won't go away. It will always be there in some way, but we can learn a way of holding and containing our emotions so that they don't drag us with them and bring us into decisions which are not wise. We can learn to tap into our inner wisdom and become emotionally literate, emotionally competent, so that we have mind and emotions in the right way to do decisions. And as long as the emotions about money, I'm in fear, then I will, save the money and be backward. And I won't, as you said before, Margareta, I won't even notice if there's an opportunity for me to get money,
Yeah, and thank you for all of that. And I want to thank you, Mark, to be here today. And I want to thank all the people who has been on the call today. And I think the conclusion is just that we're evolving as a species to another level of consciousness. And money is the gift that we can see in the eye. Yeah, that's how it influences me. Now I can actually detach from that or decide how I want to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately we are on a journey. Every single person on this planet is on a journey somewhere. And if we can journey together and be happy doing that, that's particularly a great goal for me anyway. Mm-hmm. So thank you for being with us today, and we will see you guys next week on Connections. Bye for now.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So long.